the second half of tonight's homework, we will be writing equations of lines that pass through 2 points, and then also solving a system by elimination. So here's the first type that you'll see. And the first thing we're going to do whenever we have to write an equation, we're going to use this formula, y minus y1 equals m times by x minus x1. And so what we want to do is we want a point and the slope, but we don't have the slope, so we need to find the slope. So we also have to use this formula, y minus y1 over x minus x1. This gives us our slope. So the slope of the line, well, we take our y values. Always y's are more important when we're dealing with slope, because slope is steepness. And we're talking about steepness, we're talking about vertical climb or vertical descent. And so we do y's on top. And so I'm going to start with the 7. I'm starting with this y value, and I'm going to do minus y1. So minus the negative 2. So whatever the sign is in front of the term needs to go with that term as well. The x value is positive 7, so I'm using that x value, and this one I'm calling x1, so minus negative 5. So whenever I have minus negatives, right away I change those to plus positives. And when I do that, I have to add the two numbers because they are the same sign. So what do we have? Well, 7 and 2 make 9, and 7 and 5 make 12. I go ahead and reduce that fraction, divide each by 3, and we get our number there. So 3/4, that's the slope that we have. Now we use the slope, use a point. I'm going to use this point here, and I'm going to put it in that point slope formula. So it goes this way, y minus negative 2 equals, and then the slope, 3/4 times by x minus negative 5. And then from there we have to add the opposite. So whenever you see a minus negative, quickly change that to plus positive, and then go ahead and use that distributive property. So both numbers get multiplied by 3/4, and we've got this y plus 2 equals 3/4 x, and here's the hard part. Remember, it's 5 over 1. There's no cross canceling that occurs, so you have to multiply across. We end up with 15/4. Leave it as that improper fraction. Don't change it yet, because we need to combine it with this 2, and it'll be easier just to come up with a common denominator with the 2 rather than having to deal with the mixed number form. So I'm going to take away 2 from both sides, but instead of writing it as 2, let's write it as with a denominator of 4. So I'm going to treat that 2 as a fraction. I multiplied it by 4/4, so 8/4 is the same as 2. And then I go ahead and subtract those two numbers, and we've got our answer. It's y equals 3/4 x plus, now it's positive because there's more positives than negatives, and just take away the numerator, so 7/4. Just leave it like that. Leave it in the improper fraction form because they're not asking us to graph, just solve. So there it is, 3/4 x plus 7/4. Here's another problem, another example problem. You only have one on your homework, but I'm providing you with 2 example problems. So we have the same thing, got to find that slope. So we're going to take the y values. These are the y values. They're going on top. So 2 minus negative 1. Now let's take a look at our x values. Our x values are the first numbers. They are the negative 3 and this positive 3. So I started with the 2, so I got to write down negative 3, take away positive 3. And then just go ahead and add the opposites and collect. So we have add the opposite here, add the opposite here. We have 3 over negative 6. Now that's a fraction, so make sure you reduce. So it doesn't matter where the negative sign goes, as long as there's one of them. I can divide by 3, and so that's what I did. That's how I'm getting the negative 1 over 2. So that's my fraction as the slope. Now I get to pick a point. Doesn't matter what point we pick, just pick one of them. So I'm going to pick this one here, 3, negative 1. So it goes y minus negative 1 equals the slope, which was negative 1/2, times by x minus 3. So you go ahead and add the opposite and distribute. We'll see what we get. So we add the opposite, distribute the negative 1/2 over, And we've got a y plus 1 equals negative 1/2 x and a plus 3 halves. Well, one final step there, and that is to subtract the 1 from both sides. Now, instead of 1, though, let's rewrite 1 as a fraction. So 1 over 1. Now we need to come up with a common denominator of 2. I'll just multiply by 2 over 2. So 1 over 1 is the same thing as 2 over 2. So that's what I'm going to take away. Take away 2 over 2. And what do we have left? Well, y equals negative 1/2 x. More positives than negatives, so it's going to be a plus 1 over 2. There is our answer. Well, let's take a look at the other type. We're going to solve systems by elimination. So this one's set up for elimination. See the x's, y's, equal signs, constants all in line. All we need to do is cancel out one of the variables. Now, I'm going to just multiply that bottom equation by negative 4. And the reason is that way I get the y's to cancel. So every number there gets multiplied. And I'll rewrite the problem. And I've got this. I've got a negative 20x, a positive 4y, and this all equals. Now when I multiply this, I get a negative, and that makes a 24 when I do 6 and 4. So I carry a 2. And then 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 makes 14. So there's the number. Well, I'll just bring this equation down, and I've got a 2x, I got a minus 4y, and this all equals 18. Well, I'll add this stuff together, and I'll end up subtracting, because these are opposite in sign. I've got a negative 18x, and this all equals. Now here, make sure you borrow. So I got to borrow from the 4 and change that to a 3. And then I end up with more negatives than positives. So it's going to be 126. And so now we go ahead and do some division there. And hopefully it goes in evenly. Let's see if it does. So I'm dividing by negative 18. Now as I look at it, I'm thinking, okay, 8 times what makes a number that ends in 6? Well, let's see here. I've got 8 times 7. 8 times 7 makes 56. So let's try that. Let's try 18 times by 7. See if that's going to be 126. This makes 56. And then 7 times 1 is 1 plus 5 makes 20. So yes, that did work out. So x equals 7. So I came up with the number. I was pretty sure it would go in evenly. And since 7 times 8 makes 56, so the number ends in a 6, that's why I tried it. I was trying to think of numbers that ended in 6. Well, 7 is the value of x, so let's plug it back in. Put it all the way back into that equation up here, in for that x. So what we've got left is 2x, but in place of x, we're going to write 7. Minus 4y equals 18. And so that makes a 14 minus 4y equals 18. And you just go ahead and do some opposite operations. So we subtract that 14 from both sides. And we end up with a 4.
Kimberly Bird, please call 228. Kimberly Bird, call 228.
So negative 4y equals 4. Divide by negative 1. And we've got our answer. So y is negative divide by negative 4, and we got our answer. So y is going to be negative 1. And so just a positive 4 in negative 4 into a positive 4 made that negative 1. And so there's our answer, 7, negative 1. Well, one more problem there, and that is to try to eliminate one of these terms. This one's a little easier. Numbers aren't so big. See, I just need to multiply this bottom one by negative 2. And what that does is it cancels out the y term. So let's see what we've got left. We've got our, we go ahead and multiply. We've got a negative 2y, a minus 10x equals negative 24. Down below, a 2y minus 6x equals negative 8. So when you add this stuff together, those y's cancel out, leaving us with a negative 16x equals, and this ends up giving me negative 32. Well, when you do the division, you end up with a positive 2 because the negative signs cancel out. I divide by negative 16. X equals 2. So you just take that 2 and put it back into one of these equations. Heck, I'm going to put it right over here. I put in for this x because y is almost by itself. Y plus 5 times by 2 equals 12. So that makes y plus 10 equals 12. So all I have to do is subtract the 10 from 12, and I get my answer. Y is 2. So there it is, 2 comma 2. The answer for that last one. Well, those are the types you'll see. Good luck on tonight's homework.